Welcome to episode 98 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How you doing, Warren?
Sklar, whatever. It's all good.
Sklar, I have tongue-tied there. Doing okay this week?
Yeah. No, I got to think about it because it feels like, we talked about it before, but these weeks just tie into each other, man. It feels like we're doing the same things every day, and Thursdays come and it's like it's Thursday again. It feels like it was just Thursday before. So yeah.
And I also would like to welcome our first-time guest, podcaster and musician, Victor Cajiao. How you doing, Victor?
How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. It's good to see you again. We saw each other back in January, and before all this craziness started happening at CES. You were kind enough to come visit us, and while we were doing all the CES stuff, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my wife and I are snowbirds, and so we happened to be in Vegas. Yeah. CES was going on, and it was great to break bread with you.
Yes, it was. So we'll get to find out a little more about you in a little bit here. We definitely got to be asking you about your iOS devices. But as we normally do, we have the news of the day. We've got some good topics, including some of the Victor's great stuff that he works on. Warren seemed to found us an $18 smartwatch. I think we're going to find out a little bit about that. I don't know why you would even want to do that, but. And we've got Wi-Fi 6 discussion and lots of other things. We'll see how this goes, and I think let's just dig right into it here. First story that caught my eye was a lot of TV shows are in hiatus because they can't do anything because of the pandemic. And American Idol actually is going to be finishing its current season shooting it entirely on an iPhone, which I found that to be awesome. So they're going to be 3 cameras and a microphone, and it's going to take a whole new meaning while they're sheltering in place. They had been sending out crews out to each of the contestants' houses as well as the judges, and they were just doing Zoom and however else they were doing. I think they were using Zoom, but more so, the reason I wanted to talk about this is the fact that the iPhone 11 Pro with its amazing camera. They're definitely going to take a chance here and record it. And you know what? I think that's a good idea because the camera on this thing is just absolutely amazing. Victor, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, one of the things that this terrible virus has, let us know about is how we can really leverage this technologies in ways that it clearly was not meant to be leveraged. This is a great example when you see some of the production stuff that's going on in the real world out there with items and things like iPhone 11 Pro, which I have one. And so what I would love to see, and no one's done it yet, is some behind the scenes stuff. Someone that would go and explain to us, what they've had to do. I'm guessing that there's been some big shipments of equipment that have been sent over to Stephen Colbert, and gaffers have been talking to them to teach them how to do their own lighting. And things like unions have had to say, okay, because they can't physically be there to be the gaffers, so they must get paid to consult now.
Yeah. Well, then you look at like Jimmy Fallon. I know he's doing a lot of his stuff on his iPhone because he's a big Apple guy. So, Conan was another one. He's doing it as well on his show. So it's interesting. It's kind of interesting to see how they're doing this. So
what's interesting is that they're doing it on the iPhone, which is cool, definitely. Yeah. But the reason they're getting such great quality or quality is because it's how they're being lighted, which is you can make a pretty mediocre phone look pretty good if you are using 3-point lighting like they are. This phone is incredible, but it doesn't hurt to have great lighting.
I agree. Warren, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what's the saying? Any advertising is good advertisement. So it's good for Apple, to get that out because it's never good. It's never bad to have your name out there like that. And it's not completely new. We've seen, that is, but like we were talking with the pandemic, I've seen newscasters, weather people wearing Apple Watches and AirPods like from home, doing their reporting. I don't know if you noticed, but the Today Show, when the quarantine kind of really first hit, Al Roker was sent a one of the XDR displays, which was prominently displayed there, and it was a thing. So I mean, to see quote unquote normal people, well, actors and famous people being quote unquote normal people in their houses using Apple is powerful. It's a powerful thing for advertising, and it's interesting. Just a funny thing on that I heard too was a lot of the newscasters and Jimmy Fallon, and a lot of it, they do try to make it look not professional. They do that on purpose because it humanizes them and the situation, because I'm sure American Idol can make it look almost like pro production if they really want, but they purposely scale it back a little bit just to say, these are normal people in their house doing whatever.
Yep. And that article is from mymore.com. Next story is Office for the iPad. They've already finally enabled dual screen support, where you can put two Word documents next to each other and be able to compare and work on them together. Well, they are going to be adding trackpad support later this year. They haven't added it as of yet. This is from The Verge. And they plan to, with support on Apple's Apple iPad OS system for trackpad and mouse support, and they definitely are going to make this even a better way of being able to do stuff with Office. Warren, what did you think of this?
Yeah, we talked about it, that they were planning on doing it. I guess it's still in the works. As more things go, as more things come along to support trackpad, that's a good thing, considering we both love our trackpad on our iPads.
Yeah, we do now with our Magic Keyboard.
So I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of things that kind of support it, but sometimes don't. Like I was using GarageBand on my iPad today, just to play around with it, and some things, most of it works, but you'll hit one thing here and there that's like, I'm clicking and I'm dragging, it's not doing it. So they're all kind of getting there, but it's good. It's good that they're doing it.
Yeah. What do you think, Victor?
I haven't touched a Microsoft product in over 10 years, so what I think has no relevance here at all.
Right. That's one way to sum it up. But we're going to talk about what iPad you have, and we'll share what us to talk.
And I guess I mean in my personal life. Before I retired, I had to deal with that stuff at work, but no more.
Yeah, we're both still working, unfortunately. So yeah, we do have to support it. So fair enough. Next article is also on The Verge. I found this to be, I'm shaking my head, and of course Warren had to buy one. This is, we have our Magic Keyboard. The Magic Keyboard, $300 for the 11-inch and $350 for the 12.9-inch. You like cases, right? Here's a case that you can put on your case to cover it. And this is on The Verge. This was through Pad and Quill. It's a case that will go around your Magic Keyboard case to protect it, and it's an extra $90 just to have that luxury. And Warren, I gotta let you go right at it, because I know you put an order in, and yeah, this is crazy.
I did. I mean, they had a 15% off this article. There's a code in there, so I think it was for the 11-inch. It came down to like $70 or something.
Still,
from what I'm reading, it's kind of like a book cover. A leather kind of book cover for it. It's not a full, hopefully it's not that heavy. The only thing, it's going to look nice. I'm not crazy about it's not plastic. It's not leather. What is it? The outside of the Magic Keyboard. It's I
don't know if it's,
what do they call
leather,
it?
but
Polyurethane. Yeah, something like that. But it does smudge. It smudges, and then the trackpad also gets all smudgy, and I don't like that so much, and I'm constantly cleaning it, so I figure why not. It'll make it look different, and I can't imagine adding that much weight to it. So it doesn't ship for I think I said that to 20.
Are you going to run to the UPS driver on this one too, or
I might have to? Yeah, I had to do that on the Surface
if
Go
Victor
too.
doesn't know this,
Yeah.
we both got our Magic keypads, keyboards for the iPad, and we got it on release day. So I was patient. I waited till the Friday when it arrived, and the UPS driver, I waited by the door. Okay, I'll give him that. I was at the door of my house and waited for him to drop it off. Warren went a step further. He got notification. It was already ready in his area Thursday of that week, and then he had to intercept it and go to the UPS depot to go pick it up because he had to have it that day.
Well, and you got to make sure the right people don't see it and things like that you got it. So there's all that. But yeah, so I'll let you know when it comes. I'll stick it on and see if it's pretty and light. If it's pretty and light, then I'll be happy. If it's heavy and ugly, then it's a waste of $70. But Pat and Quill makes good stuff.
I know they do.
I bought a couple things off them before. I called them 12 South when I emailed you before, which is wrong. Say, that's not they're similar though. 12. That's a hard one. 12 South. They do have a lot of really nice leather products. They have the book stuff and all that good stuff. So very similar leathery kind of nice stuff for the Apple stuff.
Any thoughts on this, Victor?
Well, good for you guys keeping the economy going, buying $350.
That's right.
Somebody's got to. I mean, someone's got to do.
Believe me, I'm doing my part this week too. So trust me, I'm doing my part too, and I totally relate to the whole UPS thing. Totally get it. I've been bribing mine
keep them working too.
Well, I've been bribing mine with cigars. It works very well. I just like tape a cigar right to the door and say, come see me, so it works out well.
Next story, this was a 9 to 5 Mac. Facebook app on the iPad OS is now updated with split view and slide over multitasking support. So now you can get 2 screens for the price of 1 when you're when you're in Facebook. And they officially added this to the iPad OS in the latest update. I have not really messed with it much, but I thought this to be interesting to see. You're going to be doing slide over, so you got to be able to see your chats and be able to see all the posts and see it in multiple screens. Victor, what do you think on this?
I think that Facebook has taken an opportunity to give you twice as many ads in the same screen space, and that is so Facebook-like. It's like, hey, why? We'll give you 3. We don't care because we can put an ad on each corner of your screen. We're cool. No, I could see some real use for this. Especially if you watch a lot of videos and stuff, or if you're checking Marketplace while you're still want to look at your timeline or something. I'm assuming you can do stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you think, Warren? You speechless?
When you have 4 laptops and tab, huh?
You speechless?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. I'll be
Ring. Hello. No, I'm not speechless. No, it's good. When you I have plenty of laptops and tablets, so if I need more than 1 screen, I could set those up too. It's
you have it all, so we know that. So I don't think this is.
No, there's still things I need. I need it all.
Always. I like picking on you, but you're fun. Last story this week in Mac Rumors, Apple is considering offering audio versions of the News Plus stories. Apple may provide users with the option to listen to audio versions of some stories in the future. This was according to publishers who spoke to Digiday. Over the last several months, Apple has been asking the publishers to participate in its year-old premium program for permission to produce audio versions of the stories they distribute. I thought this was kind of interesting to see. It's kind of like a mini Audible. They got stories and people want to be able to listen to them as opposed to just reading them. I know Warren and I, you and I, Warren, talked about this the other night on the Back to the Future that I don't know. I think they should use real live voices. I'd be kind of like be kind of turned off of it if it was with like a Siri or a synchronized voice of some sort. What do you think of that, Warren?
It's blurring the line between a podcast and a news story, I guess, is what it's doing at that point. So what's really the difference? For commuting, to listen to the news story on audio would be cool. Personally, I do like, laying in bed. I still have News Plus because my wife wants it for the Wall Street Journal, and I keep it. So, when I go to bed, I like reading the technology section of News Plus, and for me, that's all I need. But occasionally, I do run a podcast during the week when I'm driving to work and back, and if it's one more thing I can listen to without. I don't listen to radio anymore because that's done, and or my music. So something else to listen to is always good.
Sure. Any thoughts on that, Victor?
Sure. I think it's not unprecedented. I listen to a show by the New York Times called The Daily. It's a podcast, and the difference is, I think, is that if they're not just going to read the story to me, I don't need that. But if it's the essence of the story with a spin that makes it more entertaining to listen to, then I'm down with that. I can, but if it's just a matter that you're going to basically text to speech the story to me, but with a human, not so much. Because, and I think our generation, or at least my generation, might like, I certainly like listening to The Daily because they kind of just give you the story, which I probably have already read, and then they give you some spice to it. However, I can imagine some younger generations, you can't get them to focus on something for 15 seconds, never mind listening to a story completely by. I just don't see them doing it. I'm sorry. I guess I'm being a curmudgeon tonight, but that's really the way it is.
No, I agree with you. It's who knows?
The news providers, the news providers agree with them too. Actually, they feel the same way. There's a lot of pushback from them saying they don't think the format's going to work really for people either.
So, see what happens. Right now, nothing's set in stone here. It's in discussion, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So, all right, let's move on to our topics this week. And Victor, since you are our first-time guest, we always welcome our guests here, but finding out what makes you buzz when it comes to iOS, iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, Apple TV, all that stuff. Just tell us a little bit what your devices are and what you use them for.
Sure. What makes me buzz is the iPhone 11 Pro. It's and I have the Max, and it's the best iPhone I've ever owned. I really like the size. I've contemplated going back down to smaller phones, and I've said no. I'm a photographer. I like to shoot, and since I've had probably the 8, but certainly with this phone, 98% of the shooting that I do is on this, for still photography, and I really, really love it. I have an iPad Air, which I use here in the studio for all kinds of stuff, including some of the live streaming stuff I'm going to do just to do a countdown clock or whatever. And then I have an iPad Pro, the 2017 edition, which I use a lot for my live performance musically. If I'm doing, I often play my saxophone in background music, and there's a couple of programs there that let me create a set list, and it makes it very easy to then put that into a PA system with good sound. So I'm pretty immersed in all of that. Apple TV wise, we own one. When we're snowbirds, we watch it quite a bit, in the trailer, along with, probably an Amazon device as well. So between those two, takes care of it. So I'm all in when it comes to iOS devices. I'm not in, as far as you guys are, where I have to have every newest version of everything because I don't do any podcasting anymore. Before I used to have that excuse from my wife. I'm like, honey, it's part of my job. I kind of have to do that.
Oh my God, is that sound familiar?
Better than that.
That sounds familiar.
It's not me. It's not me. It's mostly Dave, though. So.
Yeah, I guess because you have an understanding wife, I guess. We both actually decided on the iPads. We stayed with the 2018 model, even though we got the Magic Keyboard. So, I think we're at least holding off on that one. And I stayed with the Series 4 watch. I didn't get the Series 5, so I held back there too. Do you have Apple Watch?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I do. Yes, thank you. I was against them for
somebody
when the first one came out. I got it. I returned it in 2 weeks. Somebody's family is. Oh, is that your watch talking to you?
Yeah, I must have hit it. Yeah.
Nice.
S lady.
So anyway, I after the first one, I sent it back in 3 days, never wore one again until the fourth version came out because of the heart thing. I thought that was quite compelling. And I thought that they had finally gotten the hardware to a point where I could rely on it. Now, truth be told, I'm a retired guy, and it sits in a drawer 80% of the time. I have to be honest, because I don't go anywhere. COVID virus or not, I'm in my studio doing stuff. But boy, it's come a long way, and I think there's a great future ahead of it for things like, I hope, diabetes metering, other kinds of medical uses like this new thing that we heard about with anxiety. Wow, what an incredible breakthrough that a device is going to be able to help you calm down and not have an anxiety attack. That's a huge story. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, we're all along the same with you. We both have the 11 Pro Max. Well, you saw it. I was with you and earlier this year, and yeah, we absolutely love that phone, and I couldn't go to a smaller one. I mean, and when the 12s come out, I'll go max out again. I mean, I'm in the trading plan, so I'm just trading in every year anyway. So it's not like it's killing me financially that much, other than it's like basically I'm renting the phone every year. So
yeah, I did that for everything. I stopped doing that this last time. When I bought this phone, I paid cash for the first time in 10 years, and I don't know how I feel about that yet, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. And you said Apple TV, you're into that too. That's doing real well, and TV Plus has been nice, a lot of great shows on there, been able to watch a lot of content to absorb, which is great. So, but you also, like you've talked about, you said you're dabbling in some video editing, which is relatively new for you. You said, and then you also got some new toys that go along with the photography and video editing, right?
Yes, and kind of like the impetus to this has been that I like to get on Facebook once in a while and play my saxophone to backup music. For my friends, especially in California, my sisters out there, it's a fun 45 minutes of just a little light jazz or whatever. And so, of course, I did that and with my regular camera and my mic. But I'm a geek, and so it's like, oh, I have an excuse here to like buy a bunch of stuff and learn a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to turn those around. I love learning new stuff. And so I started, when this whole thing came about, Alex Lindsay started doing this group called Office Hours every morning. It's on YouTube. You look Alex Lindsay up. And he started getting together just people that have common things around live streaming, audio, video, cinematography. So we go into that group, and you can either go just as a listener, and it's a Zoom call, or in my case, I wanted to participate as a participant because I wanted to see incrementally how I could improve my video quality and my audio quality. And so I'm learning a heck of a lot. And yes, of course, you make some investments. I bought a hardware switcher called by Blackmagic, ATEM Mini Pro. They also have just the Mini. The Mini's 300, and I think the Pro's a bit more. Can't get a hold of them. They're a month or two back ordered. I just got an internet unstable thing, and then I wanted to get a cinema camera anyways to be able to unplug this thing and I'll kind of show you. I think. Well, you really can't see it too much there. And so this is the Blackmagic
camera.
Pocket Cinema 4K, and I was able to use my regular Nikon glass and attach it to this camera. Although the camera is a micro four thirds and my glass is full frame, in the middle here you have something called a speed booster, which takes the Nikon, turns it into micro four thirds, and gives you an f-stop more of light and a little bit wider field of view, which is pretty cool. So now I'm going to learn how to use this thing. It's way overkill for live streaming. Let me just say that. That is ridiculous. But what it really, once we're able to get out, I hope to get out with this camera and do some shooting of cinema style, whatever it is, nature. And then I can compose some orchestral music to go along and go along with my little film and then put it out there, and 4 people will watch it, and it'll be totally worth the money I spent.
Yeah. You'll do it in the dark.
Yeah, go ahead, Warren.
I'm wondering if he's going to do the orchestral music in the dark. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sometimes, yeah. I like to in the music side of things. I've been I'll take little clips or trailers from movies and strip out the sound, and then I say, okay, how would I compose this trailer? And I'll just add my own music and listen to it. And the whole fun is in, like anything else, it's in the doing And that to me is like where my happy place is in the actual doing. At the end of the day, I put it out there. Nobody listens to it, or a few people do. I listen to it twice and then I never listen to it again. But the whole process that's my jam. The whole process of getting it done.
Yeah. And you said you got a video switcher. Did you mention that?
The video switcher is the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro. The Pro, the difference between the Pro and the regular is that the Pro has the ability on its own to broadcast live stream to YouTube, Facebook, or at the same time you can edit an XML file. So I don't need any kind of the OBS software or any of that stuff. I can just go right from this device out to and stream, and through the USB port, I can attach one of these little guys and record the entire show at this, in high quality. So if I do want to replace the YouTube live stream with a cleaned up, color graded version of the video, I can do that as well. So it's pretty cool because I didn't want to have to learn another piece of software, and it's just, I think it's too many things going on where you're trying to engage, especially if I'm playing my horn. I can't do any of that. I just it's me and my horn and the music. So.
Now you were a podcaster for quite a long time, and you hadn't podcasted in quite a few years, steadily. Are you missing it at all?
There's parts of it that I miss terribly. Yeah, the engagement, the community that came along with it. I started.
You're an amazing community.
Yeah, I started in 2005, and we built a huge audience. And my thing was it was called Typical Mac User, and it was because I was really going for people who had just switched over like I had. And I love teaching, so it was just a blast. So I missed that part of it a lot. And I've appeared on a couple of shows recently, and it's, people reach out. Oh, I remember you. This is so cool. The other day I was talking about that Alex show. Leo Laporte, Alex was on Leo Laporte's show, and Alex was talking about the show. And Leo saw me on cam and said, "Oh, Victor, I know Victor really well." I'm just like, "No, you don't." But
that's right. Yeah, right.
But it was very
Leo
nice.
Always says Leo's nice, but he always says that.
He's a charming man, and it was very nice and so a couple of people reached out. "Oh, Leo mentioned you." I'm like, "That's great. That's awesome." So yeah, I miss all of that stuff.
Sure. That's what caught my eye to have you on the show for the first time, because you were on with on Adam Christensen's MacCast and with Ken Ray, and that was really what. And you were, I was listening to you to the tail end, because I really didn't get into heavy into Mac and to iPhone until towards late at the end when you wrap things up. So, but I did listen. I did learn a lot from you as well, from your show, and we definitely miss you. But no, this is great that you're jumping back in and doing some stuff out on the internet, and we learned something from you, right?
Yeah, and it's fun. I still have the gift of gab, and I still can consume news and stuff, and I amaze myself because I'm like, gosh, I didn't think I could still do that, but apparently, I can still take a subject and talk 3 minutes about it. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great for you to be here. I really appreciate it. And so let's move on to the next topic, and let's talk about Warren's $18 smartwatch. I was shaking my head because I always shake my head when you buy stuff and get stuff. And this was reviewed on CNET, and there was an offer code that you can buy for $18. So what is it going to do to beat the Apple Watch? I don't think it's going to beat it, but go ahead and tell us what your experience has been so far.
It's definitely not going to beat it, but so I listened to the Tech Meme Ride Home, I guess, with Brian McCullough. Is that him? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brian McCullough. And he mentioned it on one of the shows. He's like, so it was like an $18 smartwatch, and he said it's got decent reviews for it. So he linked an article to CNET, which I gave to you, and basically it's normally $40, and it had a coupon that's still valid out there for that brings it down to $18, and it looks like this. And basically, it has an app for Android and iOS that I put on there. It's more fitness centric, I think, than anything else, but it does strangely enough, do notifications. I want to see if I could get to light up like I was trying.
You
to
like that?
before.
You like that light? You did that last night on Back to the Future.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it to go. Anyways, I can't. But yeah, it has the heart rate light thing that comes up. So it does do your heart rate. It does notifications pretty much. It will buzz if you get a notification. Instead of using the Watch app or Notification Center, it has its own apps, but you could check what you want to have notifications on, and it does work. There's no security at all, so if you take it off your wrist and somebody else gets it, then it doesn't lock. There's no way to lock it or anything like that. With the display off, it looks great. With the display on, it doesn't look that great because it kind of looks like just whatever. But
cheesy words.
If I was at the beach and I went to one of those little machines and won it from there, I'd be happy. I wouldn't be terrible.
No.
But it's a toy, but it's not a bad toy. I actually had a few. Did I ever? Yeah, we won, and that's what I brought up. My son won a smartwatch from a machine at the beach or amusement park, and that was terrible. This isn't that terrible.
Okay.
It's actually not bad if you ever crack your watch and need to get it replaced while you're at Apple. You need something in the meantime for $18. Why not? That's what I think.
For $18, I figured what the heck, I'll give it a shot.
Apple Watch.
I put an order in. $18 when it got to lose. So, do you have any thoughts? Did you have any thoughts, Victor?
I'm all in on $18 watches. Send them, bring them on. I mean, I won't wear those either, but I'm all in on them.
I was saying, yeah, it'll go back in your drawer, right?
My wife saw the charge on Amazon, and she didn't even care, so it should be all right. Yeah, she's like, "What do you need another watch for?" I'm like, "I don't. It was $18." She's like, "All right."
My Apple Watch needs some buddies, so that'd be perfect to buy another watch like that.
Yeah. Well, we got the link to the review from CNET in the show notes along with that code. I tried it as of this recording today, and it did work. So it was $19 with tax, I guess, whatever your tax is. So, so check it out. Next topic I want to talk about with you, Warren, again, is the Wi-Fi 6. We had been talking about this. I know you bought the router, Netgear router that the Nighthawk, that you got Wi-Fi 6 in your house, but this is the new Wi-Fi extender that they released, which seems intriguing because I was reading about it. It does work with older routers too if you want to extend a little bit. You're not going to get the exclusive speed, especially for your mobile devices like iPhone or iPad. But you got it set up. How's it been running so far?
I'll tell you about that. I thought the same thing, so I researched a little bit first. You could use it as an access point, which is how I set it up. So the way I set it up is I have a Ethernet cable running from my main router. We'll call it the second main router because I have like 1, 2, 3. Now I have 4 Wi-Fi routers in my house. I got to fix that. That's on the list of things to consolidate. But anyways, I have an Ethernet cable going right to it, and you could set it up as an extender. And with that, you could, in theory, get the true Wi-Fi 6 speed from it because it's backhauled is what it is. So, setup's fine. I have 2 devices now that will do Wi-Fi 6. I have the iPhone, the Pro Max 11 that does it. And I have this, I just bought a Surface Go 2 this week that has Wi-Fi 6. So I'm like, since I bought that, I'm like, let me try it.
And your wife didn't question you about the Surface Pro 6? So,
I could get... Well, she has no idea of anything that would even, if she asks, it's just one of my tablets. So,
all right.
Exactly.
Just checking. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, what she doesn't know whatever, could fill a bunch of stuff. But in any case, so
sure, don't put it on the internet or anything.
She doesn't watch.
We will burn and destroy any evidence of this link on YouTube or Facebook when we're done. Any case, I was getting about 300 before wireless. Now I'm getting about 450. So it's better, and for the $150, it's not bad. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get the full, because I have Fios gigabit internet, so connected to my Fios router, I'm getting 800 through Ethernet, about 889. And damn it, I want that on my Wi-Fi. And I've been trying to get this. So I've tried power line adapters, and I actually asked my wife if I could drill holes in the floor to run a cable, and she said no. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get the fast speeds in my house without drilling through walls and floors. And so far, this is all I got.
So so the Wi-Fi 6 is working out well for you then.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I only have 2 devices that could do it, but as more things start to support it, the more I'll be more into it.
Okay. All right. And Victor, do you have any? Are you dabbling in any of this yet? Or
I'm really just waiting. I just ordered the new MacBook Pro 13, and I was disappointed that it still doesn't include Wi-Fi 6. I mean, it's fine. I'm lucky. I have gigabit Ethernet to where I'm coming, so like I have 386 down, 65 up. I'm good. And so to me, it's just I don't think we're going to see ubiquitous Wi-Fi 6 for a couple of years. So for now, instead of spending the money on those really expensive routers, buy yourself a better gigabit package with your provider. You'll be very happy. Until then, by the time that's ubiquitous, those routers will come down to a reasonable amount of money. So that's my thought.
And that comes from somebody who has a lot of networking experience. So appreciate that. So let's go ahead and move on. Next topic. iPads have been used in many businesses these days as far as a kiosk or any of that type of a touchscreen. Warren, you said you just set something up and you had some interesting discussion about that relates to iPads and a kiosk. Right?
For those who don't know, probably most of everybody, I work at it's a series of retirement communities in Pennsylvania. They're actually throughout the Northeast and Florida. And for whatever reason, I've been deemed essential because I do IT support for them. So I've been going in, and when the pandemic started, they were obviously not concerned when it first came up. And then, excuse me, and then when, as it got more into it, nursing home, the place I work is a retirement community, assisted living, nursing home combo. And obviously that became a issue because that's probably the one of the hardest hit places that are out there. So the screenings became a thing. So they start right now they're doing pen and paper with pads and writing down plane numbers, and they ask a series of questions, which basically I'm sure everybody's heard, which is how do you feel? They take your temperature. Have you been here? Have you been there? Do you have you been tested? Things like that. So that's been going on, and somebody made a decision to automate it. So we're going through the process of giving everybody who's doing these screenings, and there's a lot of them, iPads to do this. And you go through the iPad through an app called Salesforce, and then you go through the screening questions. And what we're finding is it's a lot of resistance for it because people, a lot of these people aren't tech savvy. A lot of these people don't. A lot of the issues is you have to be in a Wi-Fi area, and sometimes they go outside to do the screenings and inside, so you got to worry about that. And then it's sort of like it's a balance between what the health department wants to ask, what the homes want to ask, and what IT is asked to do. So it's like kind of like a flow chart. You ask a question and then it's supposed to go to a different question and another question. So these developers are having a hard time because the questions would be like, have you been here? Yeah. And sometimes the answer is yes, and in general that'd be fine. They would just note on paper that you're fine, but on the iPad it's like, yes, you can't come in kind of thing. So it's like, from a developer perspective, it's a challenge. And then there's the whole keyboard issue, and then handles because people come outside. So, it just having iPads going to go ahead.
No. I mean, it's just hard to keep it. You want to keep it clean too. I mean, I would think hygiene wise, and COVID. How do you keep it from
that's the whole thing.
touching
We
the
got to
screen?
disinfect them when you transfer to the next person. So you got that part. The holding it, the keyboard is kind of clumsy when you want to like be outside and take it. Yeah, you got a lot of people doing this outside before they allow people in. You got the sunlight issue. So we're getting resistance. A lot of people still want to stick with the paper and pencil, and that's
which is like what, 1970s.
It's it's the story of IT. A lot of people just don't want to change, and so that's what I've been working on. So tomorrow I got to go, and there's one nurse who screens people who's like super on top. She's like this. The chief she complains a lot, but she knows what she's doing. So she's like, well, if you hit this, it has to go there. And like, so I'm like, the developers have to change it, and it has to be universal. And then Delaware has a whole thing where their temperature you can't be this high. It's a whole thing with IT. So I'm like, at this point, just give it back to the pen and paper.
Sure.
No, I think it's like anything else. There has to be buy-in from the end user, and we not me anymore, but IT folks and people who support those folks have to be willing to admit that the front lines never lie. And at the end of the day, they really know what the answer is. But sometimes we have these, techie color shades that don't let us listen to the front lines and say, you don't know what you want. I know what you want. You know what? They know what they want. So we just have to be open enough to say, if they get what they want, then at the end of the day, the business is going to be more profitable because there's going to be more efficiency. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to another topic here. Audio and video. I mean, again, I'm picking some of these topics here for you, Victor, because you are into both of those. Logic Pro just released a brand new version for the Mac, and it's pretty awesome. I want to kind of dabble in it, and it was pretty cool because I had downloaded the previous version because they have a 90-day trial now. As I don't own a license for it, and I went and downloaded the newest version and it reset all the way back to 90 days again. Sweet, I could start playing around with it, and who knows, I might even start wanting to edit the podcast using that. But I'd like to know what our experiences are with using those tools. Specifically, I'd like to see if you do anything on the iPad, Victor, with that. And I know there's been some discussion. Maybe Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro would potentially move and have iPad OS versions. So we can go ahead and start with Logic Pro. Have you been using that for a while?
Yeah, Logic Pro is my primary writing tool. It's where I do all my composition and all my MIDI work and all my sketches. I don't touch Pro Tools until the very last part of the process when I'm doing mixing and mastering. And nowadays, I don't even know if this year I'll renew my Avid license because Logic has just matured into this wonderful product. What they've brought on board now really tells me that Apple still has the eye on the prosumer and the professional. The biggest thing that came on board this time was non-linear type editing. This is what I mean by this. People that use Ableton Live and they perform live like they're DJs and they're able to pick beats and instantly. And Ableton Live is a great tool to do that. Well, Logic has been missing that. It's always been your typical linear. You have this many tracks and you're always moving forward. Now what they've done with the new interface is that you have like these little mini record players, let's say, and you can just pick beats and people are going to just go nuts with this thing. People who aren't necessarily trained as formal musicians, awesome, because that's where innovation comes from, is people who don't have those boundaries that I may have. And so for me, it's like, okay, how am I going to incorporate this into this? The beautiful part is that they did not take away the linear part. You can do your creation here, and at the same time then basically have it bounce over to a linear track that then you can spit out and, put out as a song. So it's very, very, very cool. Never mind some of the other features that are a great new sampler that replaces the sampler that they've had for about 10 years. Incredibly welcoming. And a step sequencer, which means that you can assign beats just by pushing buttons. It's how drum machines are programmed. So I'm pretty excited about it, although I've just barely looked into it because I've been busy with other things.
Yeah.
So I think your second point.
So you've had a license for a long time then for Logic.
Oh my goodness. I probably have had a license since 2006. I think I've had a license since 2006, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then, and have you done ever any audio editing for on the iPad at all with GarageBand or any other?
Or spoken voice?
Well,
for spoken voice, I would not recommend Logic. I repeat, I would not recommend Logic for spoken voice. Yeah. It is not a great environment to do spoken voice editing. Just isn't made for that. So I would go probably with the Adobe product for something like that, or with Pro Tools. It can do a lot of it, but when it comes to actually editing the audio waveform, it's clumsy at best. I'm just being honest.
Okay.
The second part that you said, which is more of interest to me, is are they going to bring these pro level applications to iOS devices? I think that they are, and that they're working towards that. In the case of Final Cut, it's a very, very steep hill to cross because you certainly, even though some of the iPads out there are more powerful than some of the laptop computers today, the rendering part is where you're going to get stuck. So how do you fix that? Well, you make a version of Final Cut Pro that you can edit and create using what they call proxy files, which are the full resolution of something would be like the 422 format. Well, you do these little tiny files that are a representation of that. They're lower quality, but they make it really easy to do the editing and then putting together of the project. That I believe you will be able to do with an iPad Pro very soon. And then what happens is you take those proxy files that you edited, push them back up to your Mac, and then let your Mac do the heavy lifting of doing the actual rendering of the project. I think that's how they're going to come to step up to that challenge.
Okay. And then in audio, there's two apps that I have listed for iOS primarily for the iPad is GarageBand, which also works on iPhone, and then Ferrite, which is another audio app editing. I don't know if you've had any experience.
GarageBand is fine. I mean, geez, Adam Christensen still does his show on GarageBand, has done it that way since 2004, and
I do too.
And it's fine. It's better, to be honest. I think it's better than Logic, just because it's just easier to work with. Ferrite is a whole other animal, but it's a very good iOS app. You could absolutely edit and publish an entire podcast from Ferrite, and a lot of people do. Jason Snell does all of his shows on Ferrite, for example. Yep.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. I edit my show here too as well with GarageBand. That's what I was kind of learning on. So it's been working fine for me. So I'll continue on doing it. I just like Logic Pro. I just wanted to dabble a little bit more into it, and always music as a hobby, not. But
if you've been editing on GarageBand, then your climb to Logic is not going to be very hard. You'll be able to edit podcasts in Logic because it's the same thing. Yeah. But for people who are just starting and people who haven't done that, I just wouldn't go to Logic as my first choice for voice editing. Right. Let's put it that way.
Right. Well, yes. Price would probably be a factor too, because it's
it's the best deal in the world when it comes to editing software for audio. There's nothing that beats it. I pay $200 a year for Avid Pro Tools for just a subscription. So Logic
Right.
is a steal.
Yeah. Warren, you mentioned that you were starting to dabble a little bit with GarageBand on iOS.
No, not
did
too
you have
much.
any comments on that?
I play piano. Have forever. Play by ear, and I bought it about 6 months ago. Just a basic MIDI keyboard off Amazon. And it plugs in. Anyways, I got the iPad Pro, and the only thing I could tell you is when I was playing around with it, you plug in the USB cable to the USB-C. So I got it's a USB-B connector that goes into the keyboard to the USB-C cable. So I plugged that in, and then I realized my problem was with GarageBand. They don't recommend using Bluetooth headphones because there's a delay when so I'm like, all right, what do we have to do? So I went on Amazon. I just got it today or yesterday. It's in a USB-C. It was $10, but it was a USB-C adapter that had a USB-A connector, a USB-C charging port, which you don't need now with the Pro because you got the keyboard, and a headphone jack. So I played around with that today, and it was cool. It worked pretty much the way it should be working. It's I mean, I want to play with it only because I know you could do this on the Mac, and I have, but it's kind of neat to have a fairly light keyboard and an iPad and headphones, and that's really all you need to kind of just play around. And it was fun.
Yep. And just a little brief discussion on video. Again, you talked about Final Cut Pro, Victor. I mean, I did buy a license for that because I think that's a really awesome video editing tool. I have been using iMovie for many years, and iMovie has its place. It's great for simple video editing, but Final Cut Pro is amazing. And what did you think on that?
Yeah, Final Cut is a wonderful program. It's on its own, it's a great program, but then you can go and buy these plugins for it, video plugins that'll let you do amazing things for $50 and for $40, and things that would take you an inordinate amount of time. You need lower thirds, or you need certain transitions, and you just go buy the package. I mean, for people like us, go buy it, put it in there. So it's amazing what it can do. And from an audio perspective as well, many people don't realize this, is that when they bring the video into Final Cut, they can separate the audio out, A, and B, they can use plugins that they may have purchased for their audio workflow within Final Cut in order to do things like declick, denoise, take away background noise, put a compressor, and you can apply all of those things right within Final Cut in real time before it renders. So when it renders, you have quality audio that is what's called broadcast safe, and for video that would be coming in at -20 LUFS, which is the industry standard for broadcast safe. Like Netflix won't take something if it's hotter than that, for example. And loudness units full scale. That's what LUFS stands for.
Okay. Well, let's hope. I'm hoping that they do have some derivative of Final Cut for the iPad. I think it would be a ideal thing. And like you said, I think it'd be good to have at the end that you could work on the iPad and edit it, and then you go right to your Mac and finish the job. There are some very good video editing programs out there. One of them is LumaFusion. I don't know if you've looked at that at all. That's a really great program for editing on the iPad. We've actually talked about that at MacStock. We did a presentation on it. One of the folks there did. That one's really good for doing a lot of good editing right from the iPad. It's got some good settings and rendering and that part. And of course, iMovie is also available on the iPad as well, so you can do a lot of editing on there. Again, it's probably something more basic, but LumaFusion is going to give you a little more advanced, and you should check that out. We'll have links in the show notes for all these apps, and you can check them out. So let's go ahead and move on. We're getting close to the end of the show here. We had app picks this week, and Victor, you wanted to talk. We just talking about Logic. You have a great app that you have.
Yeah, when you get Logic, right? You need to get Logic Remote, and that means that if you are doing a Logic session, you can use a remote control to do things like especially with an iPad, turn down the faders and get your mix going. But now with this new version, you can create those beats right on your iOS device, and it presents it in a way that it looks like a beat machine. So very cool. It's got visuals to it. It's got plenty of colors. Kids are going to love it. So it's very easy to basically connect that up, and anywhere you're at in your Wi-Fi network, you have a beat machine right in your phone or your iPad that you can integrate right with Logic in real time.
Yep. And then my app this week is actually an app I did not realize it was about. I could be kind of a news junkie for a bit, and I want to be able to access a lot of free subscriptions. This is an app called Press Reader. All your news is in one place here, and what it is, it's the best thing to be able to read magazines, newspapers on your phone and on your tablet, and download full issues. It could be anything from the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Tribune, to any magazines that are out there. But the one thing you can do, I mean, you can subscribe to it, and it's a monthly fee to access all this. But what's the greatest thing is if your local library participates with them, you get all this content for free. So all you do is sign in with your library card and PIN, and sure enough, you're getting free access. And my library even gives us free access to the New York Times. It's a daily free license that I can get access to it each day to do this. But I thought this was a great app, and it's actually very robust, especially on the iPad. You'll be able to read the newspapers and get good content out of that at all. So. So that's my app pick. And with that, let's. I can't believe we got to the end of the show here, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, and then we'll find out where we can find you guys as well. So let me go ahead and wrap the show up here. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback at intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter at intouchwithios, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others. But better yet, go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. And Victor, where can everybody find you?
Facebook, Twitter, and all the webs. Just my name, VictorCajiao. Go read the show notes, copy and paste.
All right. That's simple enough. And Warren, how do we find you?
Facebook, In Touch with iOS show, and Guy's Yellow Drive. No, I'm sorry, I'm not in code when he's driving.
I'm gonna tell you, Guy Searle. I'm gonna tell him that.
Yeah, no, that came out wrong. I am definitely not stalking him in the backseat of his car. But we do a show called Back to the Future Go on Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, with you and Guy. And then I am on the Facebook, but mostly I hang out in the Back to the Future Facebook group, which is a really nice Apple group, Apple-centric group. That talks about technology and silly things. Anybody's welcome. If you don't like Apple, you could come, but we may not like you. And W Sklar is my Twitter.
All right, great. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate you listening to our show, and we'll talk to you again soon.